Hello everyone, I have a few channels. Some are guided meditations and some are under Evolved Parenting and they're tips for parents. This video is for both of them. It will be a guided meditation, but the introduction explains why it's relevant, particularly to parents. So, one of the things that is most common in our lives when people are feeling down or we're just saying hello to someone is we say, "How are you?" And yet, if you talk to psychologists or if you meditate and you observe your own mind, you know that you is a very amorphous thing. Who you are from a psychological construct is a whole bunch of people. It's a crowd. Who you are is a crowd. You have all these thoughts dancing around and they're all disagreeing and agreeing with each other. And in my book, I talk about very much that when we go through life, we have a thought, mind has a thought, and then we feel compulsion because we think it's our thought to agree or disagree with it, right? So, simple as why I have a particular emotion, I'm angry, I'm sad, or it could be as mundane as something I have to do, or it could be anxiety, any of these things. We have a thought, which we think is ours, and then we agree or disagree, and then the thoughts keep going, and it's a snowball effect, and that's how you get trapped in mind identification. That leads to suffering because then every craving and every aversion, every anxiety, all that stuff you believe is you because you're identified with the thoughts. And therefore, everything becomes conditional. You need to have your joy and your satisfaction and your peace based on some condition, rather than realizing that it's the alleviation of those conditions. It's no longer chasing those conditions that leads to peace. How does this relate to children, and how do we get into a guided meditation I'm about to tell you? How it relates to children is, or anybody really, is that when we say, "How are you?" we are essentially telling them that there is a defined person that they are. And, in a young age, it's kind of expected and I think fine to do so because they have to get along in the world. But at around age 7 or so, I think it would be very useful, and something we're going to do, to explain this theory as best we can of the mind, and to have them understand that A, the thoughts are not theirs, but B, that who they are, when someone says, "How are you?" it can change every few seconds, right? It's kind of a silly question. So how are they would really be more appropriate. How are they? How are the little identities, the little thoughts in your mind? And if you're interested in reading on this stuff about updating Freud and all that, but anyway, you want to get to the guided meditation. So I want to say one more thing to explain it, and that is we say, "How are they?" or "How are you?" We're making it in the present, but all these thoughts, all this mental activity is all stuff in the past. Even if you're thinking about what do I need to do in the future, you're commenting on that thought, that original thought, and so it's therefore you're referring to the past, right? So if you're saying, "I'm nervous about going to work tomorrow," well, there was an initial thought, oh, nervousness about work tomorrow. Oh, that's my thought, and then you're referring back to it. So I know it's a little complicated. In my meditation classes and my one-on-one coaching, I explain it in more depth. In my book, of course, it gets a little more clear. But so hopefully it was enough to make this guided meditation make sense. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to go through a guided meditation with the breath, and this will sort of become embodied, right? So we breathe in. How were they? Now again, when we say "how were they," so we're saying you're not one person. How were they, or how are they? And also that it's in the past. So to make this a little more simple for the subconscious mind, we'll say, "That was then, this is now." So therefore, you keep saying this over and over again, and the thought comes into your mind, even if it's a thought about the future, and immediately you're reminded, oh, that was then, this is now. In this moment, there are no thoughts. In this moment, you're directly experiencing reality outside of the story about reality. All right, there's the wind-up. Here we go. Breathe in. Breathe out. Breathe in. Breathe out. That was then. This is now. 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 That was then. This is now.